I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Around the nation, TYT Nation, Jeff Waldo, welcome to the show. We got a great show for you guys here today on this Tuesday afternoon. Yeah. So, look, day 2 of self-quarantine. I'm actually not really self-quarantining because basically I live self-quarantine every day. It's kind of a lifestyle choice. So not really going anywhere, not really interacting with people. I did have to go and get paper for my job. So that's about it. Yeah, generally I don't go anywhere anyway, so I'm actually okay with this entire thing. But some of you understand may not be. And so, you know, for those people, I'm sorry. It sucks. But hopefully we'll get through this and make sure that we don't infect more people. And so that's the whole purpose of this. It's funny because, well, it's actually not funny. Super dangerous because I see right-wingers, they're posting things like, oh, see, the government and the media are shutting everything down. You know, this is what happens when you let the government control. What are you talking about? No, it's to try to prevent people from getting sick. The whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. And even Donald Trump has started to take this thing seriously. And man, when Donald Trump actually takes something serious, you know it's bad. But look, like I said, we got a good show today. We're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to talk about disastrous stuff as usual. We have, let's see, some updates on the primary that's happening. Wait, there's a primary today. Why is there a primary today? We're literally in the middle of a pandemic where people are said, don't go out. Don't do things in the general public. Stay at least 6 feet away from people. Let's not do that. Oh, right. That's, by the way, get out there and stand in lines in minority areas for hours in order to cast your vote. No, this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But I've got details on that story for you today. I also am going to talk about what the administration is trying to do for some relief for the worker. Interesting. Then we've got the YouTube. That's a fun story. We've got a Biden advisor openly trashing progressives. That's not fun. And then we're going to start out, of course, with, or we're going to end up with a fun story about toilet paper. So that's the day, man. I didn't know that. Jedi Protector says Amazon suspended shipping. That's interesting. Let's see. Other comments here. Let's see. Jonathan Andrzejczyk says the issue that the GOP theory has been get yours for so long that trying to change that is impossible. The GOP started caring when they got their own lumped in. Look, generally, you're right about Republicans not caring about something unless they're personally affected by it. You're totally on brand about that, but I don't think change is impossible. Because, look, to admit that change is impossible is to not only go against the entirety of human history, where change was 100% possible because things changed, but, it also, I think it validates a lot of the progressive movement and what we've been trying to push for and all the work that we've been pushing for it. Look, change isn't easy, if you want to say that, because that's absolutely true. Change isn't easy, and sometimes it takes a while and a lot of, energy to push for that change, but it does happen. And so don't get discouraged, guys. This, we can change things. James Watson says, so excited to go vote for Bernie in Illinois today. So just be careful. Illinois, I hear, is kind of a clusterfuck when it comes to voting. So just be careful, okay? Be careful, be cautious. If you're immunocompromised, do your best to be safe, okay? I mean, all I can say is do your best to be safe during this. And I really wish that they would have postponed or at the very least, did some sort of delay or said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to change our primary rules. We're going to open up mail-in ballots, and we're going to do that. And we're going to give you an extension in order to put in your mail-in ballots, because this is an extraordinary situation. And we need to do something about this situation to allow everyone to be able to cast a ballot. All right. Anyway. So let's move on here. Let's go to the first story, actually. And that does involve the primary. All right. The Democratic Party continues to hold presidential primaries amid the COVID-19 outbreak. So now 3 of the 4 states were supposed to do voting here on Tuesday. Arizona, Florida, and Illinois are going ahead with the voting, with in-person voting, despite the public health risk. Now, Ohio, there was a bit of a back and forth. You had judges overruling other people, overruling the governor to delay the primary vote until later on. And not only that, but you have Tom Perez saying, well, there's going to be a penalty now on delegates if you delay your primary. So that's the DNC position, is full speed ahead. Don't care if it's a pandemic. Let's do this. Look, it's insane. A lot of progressive activists are pushing back against this. And it's not because, understand, it's not because that this gives Bernie Sanders an advantage. In reality, voting now kind of gives Bernie Sanders an advantage, because older people might be too afraid to leave their house. And so, but you have younger, healthier people that might turn out, especially, again, since people are so afraid during this crisis, that they'll turn out anyway. And so it's just kind of a strange thing. Maybe there's something that I'm missing here. I don't necessarily know, but I think it's a terrible idea. All right, so now, let me give you some quotes here from progressives and political activists. This is Glenn Greenwald saying, trying desperately to urge people to take CV-19 seriously and to stay at home, and then holding elections and encouraging them to go vote at polling stations filled with poll workers and others. The opposite message is appallingly irresponsible. And so, look, that's Greenwald. I mean, there's more. It turns out that polling workers in a lot of these different states are facing an unprecedented crisis. Not enough poll workers. They're massively unprepared because even the president has come out and said you shouldn't congregate in groups larger than 10. And so it's insane to hold your elections at this time. In fact, some of the one of the supervisors here in what is it, Ohio. This is Pasco County Supervisor of Elections Brian Corley, talking to the Washington Post, said, "I reached out to our county administrator and the sheriff, and also told the school supervisor we're hemorrhaging poll workers by the hour, and we need help." That's Ohio. Illinois, number of polling places were abandoned. They're unmanned. Users posted photos on social media of closed or near empty polling places on Twitter. In Arizona, polling places are already closed over the past week as officials prepared for voters in reduced voting centers. And at a press conference on Saturday announcing the closures and the steps the Board of Elections would take, Elections Supervisor Scott Jarrett said, "I can't do this," and just walked away. So, look, man, this is what's going on. We have states voting right now that shouldn't be voting. Again, we're not like James Clyburn and saying, okay, let's shut this whole thing down. Let's shut the primary down. Or, James Carville, same thing. Just shut this puppy down. I mean, Biden's ahead, so nothing's going to happen, so we might as well shut it down. No, let's have democracy. Look, it's not as if I think Bernie Sanders has an excellent chance at winning the election. No, he faces a very, very difficult, delicate climb. A lot of polls show him very much behind. And so I don't know. Look, I don't know if this crisis will help. I mean, will really help the situation. Maybe think, maybe universal health care might be a good idea because right now there's a pandemic. I don't know. But from what I can see, the DNC is putting people in danger for no reason. Why? Again, most older people break for Joe Biden. That's who they're voting for. And the turnout was huge. Now what's going to happen? Now you've got, people that probably won't turn out, or if they do, they're going to help spread the virus. Again, the whole thing is ridiculous. Why would you do that? Why would you not delay it until this thing is over and then allow everyone to go and vote? You would want to expand democracy, not hurt it. And that's what this is doing. And it makes me wonder why. Why are they going in this direction? And I have no absolute idea. Now, look, as I said before, Ohio did do the right thing. They delayed it. Now they're going to get punished by the DNC. Louisiana also, Georgia also postponed until May 19th, right? And then you also have Puerto Rico that delayed or seeking delay. You've got Louisiana also delaying to June 20th. And then, so look, it's going to be a long primary season. And it was already going to be a long primary season. Now it's going to be longer because now you have a situation that is unprecedented. And yet you still have party leaders that are saying, nope, status quo, we're going to go with it. I don't know if that's an extension of what it's just, what they've already believed and everything about them is just screams status quo. Keep everything the same. We cannot have any change or any interruption because that is bad. I don't know if that's a part of who they are, and that's why they're centrist Democrats. I don't know. But I do know that it is extremely irresponsible to allow something like this to happen, to continue encouraging people to go out to vote at a time where really people should be staying indoors and limiting their contact with people and just delaying it into a time where this current crisis is over and everyone can turn out without fear and making sure that everybody is safe. Okay. Moving on here, let's go to what's the next story. Ah, yes. Somewhere on CNN, Andrew Yang is having a good day. Now, because of the economic downturn related to places of employment shutting down or suspending operations temporarily for the safety of the community, for the people's health and safety, members of both the Democratic and Republican parties are looking at temporary relief, which could come in the form, possibly, of a universal basic income. So now, right now, the markets are doing terribly. People are asked to limit their activity, to not gather in large crowds, in order to prevent others from getting sick or transmitting any sort of disease. Now, the Fed, on the government side, look, the Federal Reserve is a private bank, right, that loans money to the government. And the Federal Reserve also has monetary policy. And what they've done in this crisis is they've slashed rates to basically zero or near zero, like 0.25% or something. They've also bought $700 billion in bonds, injected cash into the banks for liquidity purposes. But so far, there's not been any immediate relief for the workers put in this situation. And it's really had barely an effect in the markets, mainly because consumers are not consuming or they're panic consuming. And so that's not good for the long-term health of the economy or even the short-term health, right? So now, because of this, Politico is reporting that Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin is now looking at cutting some checks for Americans. So now Mnuchin, speaking at a White House press conference, did not say how much money Americans could potentially expect to receive, but indicated that the administration could seek to exclude those who are well off, meaning people making over $1 million, right? Is generally the consensus so far in the White House. Oh, we don't want millionaires to get this. Wow, that's actually okay. Sure. But he said this, quote, "We are looking at sending checks to Americans immediately. And what we have heard from hardworking Americans, many companies have now shut down, whether it's bars or restaurants. Americans need cash now, and the president wants to get cash now. And I mean now in the next 2 weeks." Interesting. So now look, what the president originally said he wants to do is, well, we want to give you tax cuts. Right. Okay. But that's not going to work. Tax cuts are a terrible idea, especially if you're going to give a payroll tax cut, which hurts Social Security and doesn't really involve any sort of monetary benefit to families right now that aren't working. And so that's a disastrous idea. And so right now, Mnuchin's like, no, we're going to, I convinced the president, he wanted that, but now he also agrees that maybe, it'd be good to give people money so they can immediately spend it, put it back in the economy, right? So now he mentioned 2 weeks, right? You know what happens in 2 weeks? Rent's due. So that's important. And so, yes, they want to rush something out. Now, as of right now, unfortunately, there is no effort to suspend rents, no plans to suspend mortgage payments or utility payments or anything like that. I think to be effective, you would have to have a moratorium on a lot of those bills. Now, some companies have taken the step of suspending evictions for the short time. Oh, good. Oh, how magnanimous of you. Yeah, you're gonna stop kicking people out of their home just until this is over, and then we're gonna boot you out of your home. Wow. Bold. Really bold. But look, none of that helps people who are behind right now. Suspending evictions, right? Again, if you do a moratorium for the short term on that and combine that with a cash infusion, well, then that would be helpful. Much more helpful than what we're doing right now. So now, I noticed something interesting, right? So right now, there are two different plans that have come out. So first it comes from Senator Mitt Romney, right? Now Senator Mitt Romney, yes, that Mitt Romney, who once called 47% of Americans takers and victims, right? He has called for a $1,000 payment to one person immediately. Now, that is a one-time payment, right? So we're just going to give everybody $1,000 and hope that it helps. Oh, boy. Now, Romney, again, he's a conservative Republican. He's very conservative, right? Tom Cotton has also called for something similar, a cash payment of around $1,000, although he's not final on the numbers, right? This is, I don't know, we could give every adult $1,000 and then hope that helps the market. Okay. Well, again, very conservative Republicans, generally they hate giving anybody money except for the banks or corporations. But in this case, they know, they can see it's an emergency. People need money. And the economy, as it is, cannot sustain itself without increased consumer spending. So now there's the Republican position, right, that I've seen. Now, the Democrats also should have a position, right? And the general consensus goes that, well, obviously the Democrats are the far left party, right? And so they should have some radical solution. And then we have to go and get to the middle, right? All right, well, one plan to emerge from the Democratic Party side is this. Former presidential candidate Kamala Harris announced that she would be introducing the LIFT Act. Now, she had already introduced the LIFT Act before. So now she goes back to it and says, well, the LIFT Act that I introduced in Congress, well, this would do a lot, right? So now what would happen? What is the LIFT Act? Well, now let me explain, right? So now, again, it's called the Lift the Middle Class Act. And what it would do is it would give every American family or single person depending if you're a family of four, a $6,000 tax credit. $3,000 if you're single. Wait, what? Now, that's, look, here are more of the details, right? Now, the credit, again, would be about $3,000 or $3,000 for a single person. It's a refundable tax credit available to low and middle income taxpayers. The credit amount would be adjusted each year for change CPI. It would be a lot like the earned income tax credit. It would be defined as wages, not self-employment income or Pell Grants. Dependent taxpayers over the age of 15 who file tax returns would be eligible, and taxpayers would can choose whether to receive the benefit of the tax credit all at once during tax filing season or in equal monthly payments throughout the year, which could be anywhere from or up to $500 per month. Wow. How is it that Kamala Harris just got outflanked by Mitt Romney and Tom Cotton? Again, look, to be fair, right? This is per month, right? This tax credit, you could get a monthly payment of $250 to $500. And so if this crisis lasts into April, possibly May, even June, some estimates even have August, right? This financial crisis, well, then that could actually end up being much more than Mitt Romney's $1,000. But here's the issue, right? As far as proposals go, these are both incredibly milquetoast, right? This tax credit it really shows a weakness and fecklessness of the Democratic Party. I mean, not only that, but their actions so far on healthcare, not having universal health coverage through a Medicare for All system, paid leave, the recent paid leave bill, leaving out about 80% of workers and carving out massive holes for corporations. And then, of course, now your UBI, right? Now, the Republicans, as monstrous as they are, at least they do get it somewhat. And here's the thing. They can be effective when they want to be. It's just that normally they just want to be effective for the rich. It was during the Bush administration, if you remember, when Americans got an extra check, a stimulus package, right? It was on $300 myself. I remember I got that. I was a single person back then. And I think it was $500 or $600 for family, right? And so you just get a check from the government. Stimulating package, right? Now, that was, again, I think that was fairly popular. I mean, who doesn't like getting money in the mail, right? As far as being super effective, well, it was not very effective because there wasn't a lot of money. Let's be honest with you. But people did pay some bills with that and do a little bit of consumer spending. Far more effective than giving tax cuts to the corporations, the top 1%. All right. So now, but when Democrats, they try to be effective, well, they fail completely. Again, Pelosi's paid leave bill was disaster, right? Numerous carve-outs. Biden's healthcare plan leaves 10 million Americans without health insurance, and plus you still have copays and deductibles. I mean, these half measures, this is why people lose. When Republicans are able to outflank you from the left and in your own positions, well, I mean, it undermines your message and makes you incredibly weak and also makes you look unfit to lead. Any voter out there who's looking for some sort of relief, who is afraid since they've lost their job, they're going to think, well, based on this, a low information understanding, like you see, oh, they're going to give me $10,000 or they're going to give me $1,000 a month, the Republicans, which it's only 1 month, versus Kamala Harris giving me $500. Well, obviously, I'm going to go with the Republicans because it seems like they care a little bit more. I guess I'll vote for them. And if you don't have proper information out there, well, you're going to see that, you're just going to see the dollar amounts and be like, well, obviously, I'm going to go with that guy because he actually is going to give me more money right now. Elections, of course, it's all about the messaging. And when it comes to the messaging, when it comes to politics, Democrats are terrible. They cannot play politics. It seems like when they're the strongest, they're always the strongest against progressives in fighting progressive policy and not against the Republicans. All right. RB says half measures are half-assed. You're right about that. Let's see. I'm just going to read a couple of comments here. Just, Mech 900 says, I find myself wondering who's going to be saying, how are you going to pay for it? It brings me back to the old Forrest Gump meme, right? Of where it's like, all of a sudden, nobody's asking how you're going to pay for it. Something like that. It is kind of funny how that kind of disappeared, except for, of course, during the debate between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders on the issue of healthcare. But generally, I think both sides have no longer, since we're in a crisis, asking, how are you going to pay for it? All right. So let's move on here. We got one story and then I'm going to take a break. Chase says Republicans just promised free stuff. There you go. Fun. All right. Moving on. On Sunday, Senator Bernie Sanders took on Joe Biden in the first one-on-one debate at CNN HQ in Washington. So it was Bernie Sanders versus Joe, mano a mano, to try to figure out who would be the best leader for the United States. And during that exchange, they ended up spawning a bit of a new meme. Now, it started during a discussion on Social Security and Biden's record for calling for cuts that Bernie Sanders rightly challenged him on. Let's take a look at that.
On an ad saying I'm opposed to Social Security that PolitiFact says is a flat lie, and that the Washington Post said is a flat lie.
Oh, well, let me ask you a question, Joe.
Yeah.
You're right here with me.
Yeah.
Have you been on the floor of the Senate? You were in the Senate for a few years.
Yeah.
Time and time again, talking about the necessity, with pride, about cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, cutting veterans programs.
No.
You never said that.
No.
All right. America, go to the website right now. Go to the YouTube right now.
Go to the YouTube right now. The YouTube. Now, look, if you're watching this, you're already on the YouTube, which is great. So that means you're ahead of the game, right? Because here on the YouTube, we actually do show you the reality of the situation. And the reality is that Joe Biden absolutely did call for cuts in Medicare and Social Security. In fact, here's video of him on the House floor arguing in favor of a balanced budget amendment, which, yes, means cuts in Medicare and Social Security. Take a look.
When I introduced the budget freeze years ago, the liberals in my party said, it's an awful thing you're doing, Joe. You are all the programs we care about. You're freezing them. Money for the blind, the disabled, education, and so on. And my argument then is one I make now, which is the strongest, most compelling reason to be for this amendment or an amendment. And that is that if we don't do that, all the things I care most about are going to be gone. I mean, whatever happened to that old conservative discipline about paying for what you spend? I'm up for re-election this year, and I'm going to remind everybody what I did at home, which is going to cost me politically. When I argued that we should freeze federal spending, I meant Social Security as well. I meant Medicare and Medicaid. I meant veterans benefits. I meant every single solitary thing in the government. And I not only tried it once, I tried it twice, I tried it a third time, and I tried it a fourth time.
Look, that's Joe Biden. Not mincing any words. He says we got to put it all on the table because, then the things that I have are going to be gone. Again, that's deferring to the right-wing position of, well, I mean, how are we going to afford it? How are we going to pay for it, right? I mean, we can't possibly raise taxes on rich people in order to pay for it. No, we can't do that. So we've got to cut Medicare and Social Security. We've got to put it all on the table, except, of course, for tax cuts. We cannot, put those on the table. No. We've got to put it on the backs of poor people and the disabled and the elderly, etc. So look, I don't know about you, but I think putting Social Security on the table is 100% unacceptable for budget cuts. You can't do that. And as I was saying, you never see Republicans saying, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to raise taxes on wealthy people and raise the corporate tax rates just a little bit in order to do these budget negotiations. No, Republicans come in, they steamroll, and they say, you will cut taxes for corporations. You will cut taxes for the rich, and we don't have to pay for it. But once the bill comes due, because we always end up having to pay for it, that's okay. We'll cut Medicare and Social Security. And Democrats go, okay, how much? How much? Oh, no, we can't do it too much. But we'll do a little bit of a cut here and there. And we'll nick it to death. Because we also represent the corporations. We also represent the wealthy. Those are our donors, and that's what our donors want, is more tax cuts. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Democrats are always required to sacrifice domestic spending when it comes to poor people, elderly, disabled, etc. But Republicans are never asked to do this, unless, of course, you have people like Bernie Sanders, who actually does ask the corporations, no, pay your fair share. That's it. Pay your fair share in taxes, and then we can actually have these things. But again, here's the thing. You saw Joe Biden. He wasn't remiss about this. He wasn't like, God damn it, I really don't want to cut, put this on the table. I really hope we don't have to. I'm going to work my ass off to say no to Social Security cuts. No, we can work out a budget deal without that. Republicans, you're going to have to give something up. No, that wasn't what Joe Biden said. He said, we're going to cut Social Security. We're going to cut Medicare because we have to. Not even sad about it. Not even. He agreed with the Republicans and made their own argument for them. He basically, look, a lot of these corporate Democrats, our biggest complaint is that they run cover for Republicans, for conservatives. And so that is devastating. But if you're watching cable news, you don't see that. They don't show you that video. Have they ever showed that video on CNN? Have they ever showed that video on MSNBC and said, well, look, man, he was calling for the, cuts to Medicare and Social Security for a balanced budget. No, that's why Bernie Sanders smartly says, go to the YouTube, because it's literally there. He knows. He knows. Look, corporate media runs defense for Biden. Was running defense for all the corporate Democrats. And look, if they were actually responsible media, they would have showed both sides. They would have showed the truth. They would have showed the video and asked Joe Biden, hey, now, wait a minute. And you might have changed your position now and have called for the expansion of Social Security. But back then, what was the deal then? Why were you calling for cuts? Because that's you on video calling for cuts. Why is your position changed now? What's different now than back then? That would have been good. That would have been smart questioning. But no, they don't do that. They don't do that at all. And it's amazing because you can't say that, oh man, they weren't prepared. You didn't think this was going to come up? No, of course it was going to come up. Look, Bernie Sanders has been hitting Joe Biden on Social Security for weeks now. Even being called, even being accused of doctoring an ad. Well, they bring up the doctored ad, but they don't show in reality, right, what Joe Biden really said about Social Security, about these cuts. So anyway, now with the serious stuff, let's go to some fun, right? We're going to call it the YouTube. We're going to call it the Facebook. I feel like this is such a senior thing, right? And no offense to seniors, right? But I just find it funny and pretty endearing, right? Even YouTube itself, after this happened, they changed their handle on Twitter to the YouTube. It's funny. Again, it's hilarious. And look, I don't think it's that much of a shot at Bernie's age, to be honest with you. Bernie's not a spring chicken, but neither is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a year younger than him. And so the difference is, of course, Bernie Sanders has massive support among young people. 70% of young people support Bernie Sanders. And then you have, of course, a massive amount of people 65 plus that support Joe Biden. And there are reasons for that. I think the biggest one, and I've talked about this on the show before, Biden is basically the electoral equivalent of a fuzzy, ugly sweater. You know the one. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody's got a fuzzy, ugly sweater, right? But it's comfortable. It's familiar. Yeah, it's got some stains on it, or yeah, it's super ugly, but man, it's comfortable and you know it, right? It's always there. It's always in your closet, right? And so you get back to a time where things aren't so radical, but you got your sweater, right? And so here's the thing, though. I say ugly sweater because the ugliness is apparent. You have the lies about cutting Social Security. You get the lies about the records and civil rights being in places where he actually wasn't. And so you also had the lies about getting arrested in South Africa. He did not. You also have his campaign and his campaign ads, I should say campaign staffers, dripping with condescension towards progressives. But none of those things, look, either voters don't care about that, or they're more likely to not know about these things because cable news runs interference for them. Or maybe, and I've seen this before as well, people that are so afraid of the word revolution that they ignore policy that would massively help them in favor of labels. Labels. Right. Look, I don't know. Look, I think it's a complicated mix, but a lot of it is based on, where you get your news, where you consume your news, generally shows how informed you are. And if you're watching CNN, if you're watching MSNBC, in the Democratic primaries, you are not informed about your choices. You are told constantly that Bernie Sanders, cannot win. Bernie Sanders is a socialist. He's some sort of second coming of Fidel Castro, or Stalin, right? That he's praised dictators, which is not at all true. Yes, he has said positive things about a regime, and then also criticized that same regime. Said, boy, I really don't like those authoritarian dictatorships, but to be fair, they got a good literacy program. it's something. I mean, cable news lives in a world where there is no nuance, where you can't talk about any positive thing if the leader is a negative. That's not a way to do negotiation. That's not a way to do diplomacy. That's not a way to make things better, right? And besides, one thing that cable news did not show you about that whole Cuba thing is the fact that Obama also said the same thing that Bernie Sanders says. Yes, your literacy program, we thought that was pretty good. But the mainstream media, they won't give an inch. They won't give an inch. And it's because they've chosen their side and they have a bias. And whether or not they know this bias, I think they do. I think it is on purpose. And I think it's malicious. I think there are bad faith media, bad faith actors within the media that are pushing a certain narrative. And look, they're pushing for a certain candidate, one that is status quo, that generally keeps their money, power, and influence. The other candidate, I mean, would disrupt that, and they can't abide it. All right, so now I said I was going to go less serious here, so let's read a couple of tweets here. Now there were some jokes and memes about the YouTube, right? And so let me just read a couple of those. Cry Every Time Puppy says, "Dear Lord, somebody please make a Bernie 2020 shirt that says go to the YouTube." I really need to work on that. That would be great for our Teespring. Just saying. And Kate Willett says, Bernie is reaching out to seniors by calling it the YouTube. I mean, high outreach, right? And Julie Alexander finally says, to be fair, my mother for years has told friends that I report on the YouTube. And so I guess I do the same thing. I report on the YouTube. And I am on the YouTube. So there you are. Okay. Fun times. All right. So let's take a quick break here. We'll come back. We got this Biden advisor. And then we have a fun story on TP. So stay right here. We'll be right back around the nation.
Mike Pence.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TWT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. All right, so welcome back. I've got a super chat here from David Richardson. Says, Pelosi's bill is a blatant attempt to undermine Bernie. If he votes no, the smear is a hypocrite of Medicare for all. If yes, they'll smear him for supporting something that doesn't work. I don't know. I don't necessarily know. I don't think that's the case. I think this is a weak bill because Democrats are weak. And they probably thought, well, that's literally the best that we can do. Sorry. But here's my problem with the Democrats. So, when they negotiate with Republicans, they always go in by giving everything up immediately. I mean, they already said, okay, well, we want some sick leave. Just any tiny amount of sick leave, and we'll give you whatever you want. Well, what they wanted was no sick leave, and what they got was 20% of people getting sick leave, basically. Again, it's ridiculous, right? They're so weak and feckless and directionless, and they can't. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. But again, going back to the money, they're paid to lose. They're paid to lose. I mean, there's only so bad you could be at politics if somebody like me can come up with better ideas. All right. Anyway, that said, thank you for that. I do want to thank, have that up here, a couple of channel members here, Vincent Mosky and Jesse DeVore. So thank you. Channel memberships help the show. If you want to be a channel member, hit the join button below. Super chats also help, so thank you for that. Let's see. Another channel member comment here. Sorry, not channel member comment, but Gokugini says weak is weak. Jack Sherman says Democrats really suck. There were Republicans should be. Agreed. All right. Patreon. Let's see. New patrons here. Sarhil Sharjenka. I don't think I said your name right, but thank you. I appreciate you for supporting independent progressive media. And then we have Solomon Davila. So thank you to those patrons. You guys are what keep the show going and growing. We also have a fundraiser going on to raise some money during this entire thing. So thank you. If you, look, and even if you can't donate money, just share, go through the clips. It really, really, really helps. So we need as much growth as possible. All right. Anyway, thank you, Christy. I appreciate that. Moving on. An advisor to former Vice President Joe Biden is facing an avalanche of criticism after she condescendingly dismissed Bernie Sanders following the debate on Sunday night. So now, here's what she said. I think it's fair to say that Vice President Biden showed up to a debate tonight and for 2 hours graciously dealt with the kind of protester who often shows up at campaign events on live television. Similar versions of Dunn's remark from a post-debate call with journalists were reported by Janet Hook of the LA Times, Ken Thomas of the Wall Street Journal, and Natasha Korecki of Politico. So this is confirmed. A Biden advisor, basically dismissing Bernie Sanders. I mean, he's one of those people, just like one of those protesters. Good on Joe to humor him. The condescension, dude. I can just imagine her sipping a glass of wine, doing the same thing. She humored him. Oh, good for him. But think about it, though. That's how the people feel about us. We're inconvenient to them, progressives. Oh, you're just loud. You're just rude. Oh, I can't wait till we go back to the days of civility. With all these, I don't have to listen to these loud, poor people. I mean, that's what it is. Why don't you just know your place and shut up? Go get in line. Get in line, vote for Joe Biden. But look, that's how they feel about us. That's how Biden feels about us with this dismissiveness. That's how the establishment feels about us. We're a pain in their ass. And the reason that we're a pain in the ass is because we actually challenge them on their record. And we asked them, well, what are you going to do for regular working people? We actually expect more from our politicians instead of happily falling in line. So obviously, she got a lot of criticism from progressives. Let's start out with Jeet here, who is the national affairs correspondent at The Nation, correctly saying the Biden people have nothing but contempt for the progressive wing of the party. Now, look, I know there are people saying, oh, there's no division in the Democratic Party. In fact, by doing something, a story like this, you are creating the division in the Democratic Party. How dare you be divisive? How dare you say stuff against the presumptive nominee, Joe Biden? How dare you? No, there already is a divide, right? No, you can't ignore this divide between progressives and the moderates, the rest of the party. If you do, you're basically trying to paint over a crack in the foundation. That's not going to work. The foundation is literally falling apart. It does not make this go away. Ignoring the fact that we have this, because, well, we need to focus on Donald Trump. That's it. No, dude. No, you can't defeat someone like Trump or Trumpism when your house is on fire. I mean, and that's what the Democratic Party is. I know it's a poor analogy, but our house is on fire. And we can't look, right now, the Democratic Party is sitting in that house and saying, this is fine. No, there's no division. There's nothing wrong here. We're going to beat Donald Trump by using the same little playbook that Hillary Clinton used in 2016. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to warn you. Yes, there's a division here between the party elites and the rest of the party, the progressives. And the media and the party elites are ignoring the will of the people. And that is the source of this division. But here's the thing. They lie. They use the media to gaslight and run cover for them, while they'll sell out the future young people for corporate donations. And that's a big problem here. Now, Columbia law student Alex Clavering also made a point. He tweeted that the Democratic Party has nothing but disdain for activists. So building on Jeet here's point, right? Because, they have disdain for progressives. But not just progressives, but actual activists, people who go out and protest. And that's exactly what she was alluding to. Oh, he's like one of those stupid protesters that come up to our rallies and harass us and actually ask us questions. We hate that. We hate that. We don't want that. Now, you got to ask the question, though, where was the establishment in Standing Rock? Where was Obama and Biden during the Keystone XL fight? Oh, right. We were fighting Obama on both of those issues, trying to convince him to not build those pipelines, which, grudgingly, his administration decided not to do, but not without these massive, massive fights. And that's the problem. You do not see any of these Democratic establishment politicians support grassroots protest movements. They don't even give them a microphone, except for Bernie Sanders, who did literally give Black Lives Matter a microphone. Now, Dunn's comment also came in the wake of activists with various groups interrupting a Biden rally in Detroit to call out the former vice president for supporting NAFTA and to pressure him to embrace the Green New Deal. But Biden seems to have a problem whenever anybody asks him a challenging question. He always comes off either angry, combative, or condescending. I mean, look, I use this sound a lot on my soundboard.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
That was a guy just asking Biden a question. That was a reporter. He's easily agitated because he can't handle it when people challenge him and his power. How many times has he told people who ask him or challenge him a question or try to get him to explain or change his policy to go and vote for Donald Trump? Go vote for Trump then. Go vote for somebody else. That's not somebody who's going to bring people in to create a coalition that you're going to use to beat Donald Trump. No, he's pushing people away. He's pushing potential voters away. And it's amazing that they don't see that, but they don't want to see that. Now, by the way, at that Detroit protest, you know what he referred to the protesters as? Oh, it's the Bernie Bros. They're here. The Bernie Brothers. Sorry. Oh, the Bernie Brothers are here. You know what also isn't going to help? When you erase young men and women of color and use a widely debunked media narrative created specifically against Sanders supporters to erase them. Now, probably the most accurate description of how the party feels about progressives comes from Naomi Klein, where she said, "Understand that all of us in the Sanders campaign are seen as nothing but trespassers on their party property, and they absolutely cannot wait to call the cops." Yeah. I mean, look, right there, super accurate, 100%. She's right. Naomi Klein is probably one of the best progressive thinkers that we have. I mean, and you've got a lot of great thinkers. You get, Professor Richard Wolff. You got all these wonderful thinkers, right? Naomi Klein is right on the nose right here. And so they want to be like, that lady that calls the cops on black people. You guys remember those stories. You remember. I mean, and by the way, they want us off their lawn until it's time to vote. Then they want our votes. And they'll spend the next few months, by the way, vote shaming people. They've already begun, right? Mockingly asking if we challenge them, hey, do something more progressive, right? So have Biden come out and meet us on our territory. If you want our vote, come out and try to appeal to us then. Well, and then those will be like, well, you're just going to vote for Trump, aren't you? And then when Biden inevitably loses, which I think he will, they will do exactly what they did when Hillary Clinton lost last time. They're going to blame us for it instead of the failures of their own campaign. Now, I know a lot of people who are progressives who held our nose and voted for Hillary Clinton. Oh, the overwhelming majority did so. You know what happened after that? Donald Trump won. We got blamed for the next 3 years. 3 years. I voted for Hillary Clinton, right? I got a lot of crap from progressives for that. And I don't want to go through that again, right? I voted the right way. I did everything I'm supposed to, and I'm still called a Russian plant Bernie bro. And that I'm the fault of Trump. The Democratic Party hates us. They hate us because we challenge their power. We challenge their authority. We constantly expose the flaws in Democratic leadership. And we prove that they're not really the good guys after all. And that's not to say Republicans aren't a billion times worse. They're monstrous. But Democrats, they're really not all that much better. I mean, social issues, sure. Social issues, sure. And again, the thing is that nothing makes a liberal more angry than undermining their moral high ground from the left. And so but it's not good to be less monstrous than a monster. 68,000 people die annually due to lack of health care. 40% of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency. 60% can't afford a $1,000 emergency. I mean, look, home prices are too expensive. Credit card debt's exploded. Household debt, student loan debt, wages are stagnant. Democrats, and by the way, when they were in charge, they did little tiny tweaks around the edges. You can blame Republicans. Of course, they've had a huge hand in this. They do block everything the Democrats try to do. I get it, right? But why are Republicans winning elections in the first place? They shouldn't be. The Republican Party is disastrous. They're monstrous. They're bought by the rich. How can you lose against them? How could you lose against Donald Trump? How? Maybe it's because people feel like there is no point. Because when you run Republican light versus a Republican, well, they're going to vote for a Republican. People don't want moderation. People do want change. And so, look, even some great, good-natured voters who believe in progressive policies have been convinced by cable news that they should vote for moderates, that that's their only chance, just to be safe. Just to be safe. And this is what's happening in this election, I believe. And not only that, but of course you have elderly turnout, right? Elderly turnout outpaced that of 2016. But you know what also outpaced turnout? Youth turnout. Younger people are out, but older people just happen to be out a lot more, and they're generally more consistent voters. And so that's what you have, right? And so look, let me bring you to a quote here from Glenn Greenwald, right? who said this. When Democratic establishment figures spend a couple of weeks condescendingly pretending to like and respect Sanders and his voters, remember what they really think of you. Because they will try to gaslight now that they think that they've got this entire primary locked up, which it's not over yet. But it could be today. It could very well be today. But this is what they think about you, that you're annoying, that they want you out of the party, that they don't care about you, that they think you're, just somebody who's in the way. Just those people at our rallies, that protest, just ignore them. No, we don't care about them at all. That's what they think about you if you're a progressive. Diane Russell, by the way, former Democratic state representative and gubernatorial candidate in Maine, said this. She said that alienating young voters who overwhelmingly support Bernie is a terrible idea and detracts from an otherwise healthy debate. She's absolutely right. Ryan Grimm also suggests the comment could have consequences at the ballot box. And this is what they're really afraid of, right? As soon as Biden took the lead and a lot of younger people were like, no, we're not voting for Joe Biden. For one, he has no empathy for our struggles, and he said so openly. Two, he's condescending and he spits in our eye at every chance. Again, remember the condescending laugh that he had during the debate. Now they're freaking out because, turns out that young people really aren't interested. Oh crap. Now we've got to go and appeal to those people. Oh, I guess you need us now, right? Okay, well, you need us now. Then come to our side on policy. Come over to us. Come over to us. Start talking about actual student debt, cancellation. Come to our side on policy. I mean, that is one way to get voters. Another way is to stop talking like this. That would be great. But Grimm said this. What can motivate a Biden advisor to say something like this? Shouldn't this level of contempt be kept to dinner parties and green rooms? Look, I don't think it's an accident she said this to reporters. I do think that she wants us to know how much she despises us, so that we know our place. Because what's our other option? Trump? You're going to fall in line anyway. What do you want, Trump? It's the same level of hubris and condescension from 2016. And we see how that ended up. I think the Democratic establishment has learned absolutely nothing from this entire experience. And unfortunately, they never will, because their paychecks depend on not understanding. Okay. So let's have one more fun story. Okay. An Oregon Police Department really wants residents to stop calling 911 for emergency toilet paper. Yes, you heard that right. Now, this came from a rather lighthearted post from the Newport, Oregon Police Department, and it's gone viral due to the very real problem of people hoarding toilet paper. Yes, I think a lot of you who have went to the store have noticed that your favorite type of toilet paper, or maybe not your favorite type, but the cheapest available, even the cheapest available, the old one-ply stuff, gone, not on the shelves anymore, because you have people that have stocked up a little too much. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of a toilet paper emergency, but not so much. And that but was not, by the way, meant to be a pun, but you can take it as a pun if you want. But it's not an emergency in which you can call the cops for. So now, the Newport, Oregon Police Department posted this on social media, said, it's hard to believe that we even have to post this. Do not call 911 because you ran out of toilet paper. You will survive without our assistance. And in fact, they list, if you don't have toilet paper, they list hilarious yet uncomfortable alternatives. Semen. No, I'm sorry. People, boy, that got awkward. Sailors had used old rope and anchor lines soaked in salt water. Not good. Ancient Romans used a sea sponge on a stick. I did not know that. But hey, you have to soak it in salt water before you stick the sea sponge anywhere. Seashells were also used, corn cobs, and even pages from the Farmer's Almanac, among other things, were used. These are suggestions that came from the police department. They added this: be resourceful, be patient. There's a TB shortage. This too shall pass. Just don't call 911. We cannot bring you toilet paper. Leaves also noted as, look, there's a lot of different suggestions here. I didn't want to go through them all. But my first thought is there's no way people are calling the cops over toilet paper, right? I think they're having a little bit of fun. That is fun. And that's because a lot of people are self-quarantining. They're staying home. They're not going out. And so you got to have something to entertain yourself, right? I can't imagine a lot of crime happening right now, too, for police departments. So it's very tongue-in-cheek. Hey, some people have a bidet, by the way. I bet bidet sales are spiking here. Maybe in America. The rest of the world's like, toilet paper? Barbarians. But anyway, you got to have a sense of humor to deal with this entire thing to help what's going on outside, or else you're going to get depressed. And so personally, I felt that memes, toilet paper memes, are, in a sense, a bit therapeutic. So I have fun, right? But look, for a serious note here, don't hoard toilet paper. Don't be that guy. And by that guy, I mean the one who bought 17,000 bottles of Purell to sell on Amazon. And then when they banned him from selling on Amazon because he was price gouging, he ended up having to give away this. So don't be that guy. Be a decent human being. Save toilet paper for other people. You're not going to run out. And please do not call the cops if you are out of TP. Just a public service announcement. Yes, I did put that Photoshop together, by the way. Nailed it. All right, guys. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream. Please consider becoming a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation, or a channel member. Thank you for the super chats. And don't forget, we do have a fundraiser going on, so to help us stay sustainable during this crisis and beyond, because YouTube is not sustainable. So there's that. All right. That's it. Thank you, guys. And remember, change begins with you. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Please clap.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
Oh, wow, I'm sorry.
Mike Pounds.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.